It's Tuesday, November 15. In the headlines, Prime Minister Andrew Holness announces new states of public emergencies. Our jet begins its one-hour flight service from the Dominican Republic to Jamaica. Regionally, IDB donates to Belize's hurricane relief efforts. And internationally, news from the G20 summit in Indonesia. In sports, Mumbai Indians releases Kieron Pollard. This is the news on PBC Jamaica. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. Business, tourist, and social relations between Jamaica and the Dominican Republic are set to soar to new heights now that there are bi-weekly direct flights between the two countries. Our jet made its first direct flight to the Norman Mann International Airport on Monday. Minister of Transport and Mining Audley Shaw, Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade Senator Kamina Johnson-Smith, and Senator Auburn Hill, Minister of Industry, Investment and Commerce, joined Dominican Republic Ambassador to Jamaica Angie Martinez to greet the delegation from the flight.
This advent of air connectivity with the Dominican Republic brings exciting possibilities. Jamaicans and Dominicans alike will now have the benefit of low-cost and time-reduced travel between Kingston and Santo Domingo.
Minister Hill spoke of the significance of this development in regional travel.
Jamaican wanted to go to Dom Rep. It's $1,000 and 20 hours. So the Jamaicans who went are many of those who had their private jets or other similar private arrangements. But now, ordinary Jamaicans can go not for $1,000, but for $250. The exchange in terms of knowledge, in terms of transport, of course, in terms of trade. You're going to see a lot more Jamaican products in Dom Rep. Of course, they will export more to us, but it's our job to make sure we move up that needle.
Ambassador Martinez has been working on this historic bilateral partnership for some time. She says the two countries will now have increased opportunities to share cultural, social, and economic practices.
One which we will have a very positive impact on trade, investment, tourism, but most importantly, that bring our cultures and our people even closer together.
The CEO and founder of Our Jet notes that the airline began its service this year and already has more than a dozen destinations on its routes.
From Santo Domingo, you can easily go into Punta Cana, Bávaro. You can go north into Puerto Plata, northeast into Samaná, Las Terrenas. You continue north, you can go to Cabarete, which has great surfing environment. It's 80,000 new rooms now, 1 hour away from the Jamaican people, for $257, and rooms with all types of prices. And so that's the leisure offering that we have. But if you're into commerce and you have business now with this route, I'm sure you can go and do more business there, and Dominicans can come do more business here. We're starting with 2 flights a week. Mondays and Fridays. Now, this is very normal when a route that wasn't connected and it starts getting connected. You kind of start with 2 frequencies, and depending on the amount of traffic that we as partners, which we are partners, the Dominican Republic and Jamaica, then we're able to increase frequencies.
He adds that Our Jet will be seeking to land in Montego Bay in the near future. States of public emergencies have been declared in Clarendon and St. Catherine. Prime Minister Andrew Holness made the announcement during a press brief at Jamaica House Tuesday morning. He says SOEs have also been declared in St. James, Westmoreland, and Hanover.
We have seen an increase in criminal activities in these areas, and indeed a threat to property and, in some instances, public disorder. It is important to note that we are also approaching the Christmas season. And this will require the deployment of even greater resources, sometimes resources that our security forces do not have. And therefore, the government has to act in a preemptive way. The government has to act in such a way as to maximize the resources that we have to save lives and property from the threats that exist.
Police Commissioner Major General Anthony Anderson says based on these statistics, the SOEs are needed.
They're duping well-meaning persons in the society into believing that they are other than they are. That's heartless killers preying upon weak and vulnerable people in communities. Now, no one knows this better than us at the police, as we see every one of those murdered persons where they fell. We deploy our first responders, our detectives, our crime scene personnel, and victim support personnel in the communities, and we share their pain. There's an urgency to what we do as a society, and it's on this basis that there is no place for reticence in using every tool that is available to us collectively in order to deal with this situation.
He reiterated the successes of past declarations of SOEs.
I can just remind people that when we first brought it in, we had a 70% reduction in murders in St. James, a 61% reduction in St. Catherine, and overall an average in all areas, divisions that we use these measures, an average of 40% reduction. We are seeking similar reductions as we go into the end of the year and into next year.
If a government or other authority declares a state of emergency in an area, it introduces special measures such as increased powers for the police or army. When an SOE is called, the government grants the security forces temporary additional powers. These include power to curtail operating business hours, powers of search of a person or building without a warrant, powers of arrest and detention for up to 7 days without a warrant. During an SOE, a curfew may also be enforced. You can watch the entire press brief on our social media platforms at PBCJamaica. Be sure to leave a comment. Government Senator Don Webby wants more social and national security services on the legislative agenda. Senator Webby, in his State of the Nation debate in the Senate last Friday, noted the relative regulations and increased investments in social service, such as Project STAR, will help to curb crime. Maya Chung tells us more.
Senator Webby said that whatever is holding the government back from implementing this act to support the transformation of the JCF has to be overcome. He said the government needs to find a way to overcome the challenges in that area, adding that resources, technical expertise, financing, and whatever else is necessary must be put in place.
From what I understand, these criminals' operations are very structured, and they use technology to facilitate their operations locally and overseas, fueling violence and the trade of guns and drugs. I'm therefore suggesting that we consider, Senator Brown, I'm therefore suggesting that we consider and debate amendments to the Telecommunications Act to improve law enforcement intelligence gathering capabilities. This would include telecommunication providers expediting requests from law enforcement to provide customer and call data information and requiring them the data for longer periods.
Senator Webby added that he has reviewed the research done by Orlando Patterson and Herbert Gale and stated his agreement with their findings that crime is a byproduct of social ills and lack of education. The senator said that with the improvements in the economy and the reduction in Jamaica's debt burden, the fiscal space to address the root cause of crime is now present and should be used. The senator is asking that the funds for crime fighting be dispersed by the end of the financial year with a hardline focus going forward to ensure that the nation has the right resources and expertise to execute on these investments.
Mr. President, with the economy moving in the right direction and the debt to GDP ratio going down, more funds will be available to spend on the social services sector, of which crime prevention is paramount. In addition to having the resources to solve the crime problem, we need to have the right strategies, short, medium, and long term, to ensure resources are deployed in an effective way.
Mr. Waby said that it is known the government by itself cannot solve the social issues the nation is facing. The senator commended the private sector organization of Jamaica, which has embarked on an initiative called Project STAR.
The largest ever privately led social transformation project in Jamaica, focused on building communities through an all-of-society approach. I really want to recognize Keith Duncan and the PSOJ for the initiative.
Reporting for PBCJ News, I'm Maya Chung.
Eating large amounts of added sugar may increase your risk of diabetes. Research shows that if you eat more sugar than your body can use for energy, the excess will be converted into fatty acids and stored as body fat. That can, over time, lead to one becoming overweight, which in turn increases your risk of becoming diabetic. It's not enough to just use less sugar in your tea and drinks. Watch and learn in this episode of Living Healthy.
Professor Samuels is inviting you to be a sugar sleuth. Before buying a product, one should read the label and look out for added sugar, and it won't always be called sugar. It's often described as evaporated cane juice, fruit juice concentrate, brown rice syrup, malt syrup, corn syrup, date syrup, barley malt, or galactose or glucose.
Hidden sugar is a term that is used when they are talking about foods. And sugar comes disguised with many different names. Maltose and fructose and sucrose and corn syrup and all of these things. And so a lot of times when you look on the label of a product, you don't see the word sugar, you will see something else. And if you don't know all the disguises for sugar, you might not realize that it is in fact sugar.
She explains that human eating habits have changed over the years, and some of these habits put people at risk of non-communicable diseases like childhood obesity.
Okay, so what happened is that, say, 50 or 100 years ago, the main problems were communicable diseases. Polio, diphtheria, tetanus, tuberculosis. Over the years, immunization, yes, the same immunization like we get for COVID. Immunization against all of these diseases have changed the face of the disease pattern and also allowed people to live much longer, because children used to die a lot in early days from all of these preventable diseases. So we have kind of conquered that, but at the same time that we did that, we went into what we call the nutrition transition. At that time long ago, we used to eat what came straight out of the earth. Now we are eating out of tin and from the fast food, and it's everywhere. French fries with 3 meals a day. That change in the diet culture is what is causing our steep increase in the risk factors, especially obesity, and also in the actual diseases too, especially in children.
Childhood obesity is a problem. It is a serious medical condition that affects children and adolescents. It's particularly troubling because the extra pounds often start children on the path to health problems such as diabetes, high blood pressure, and high cholesterol. Child obesity can also lead to poor self-esteem and depression. So what can parents do about it?
Again, I want to go back to the drinks. Give your children water to drink. That is one of the most important things that we can start with, and it's doable. It's doable, you know what I'm saying? Because that sugar in the drink is very dangerous. because when sugar just gets it in a liquid into your stomach, it's absorbed immediately, and you get a sugar spike, and then the insulin comes, and then you get a sugar crash. So the sugar goes down below the normal level, and then you want another soda to bring the sugar back up. So we need to get out of that sweet drink thing.
In the business report, National Commercial Bank Group year-end earnings up by 99%. We have that story plus your usual market updates from Danita Rodney.
The NCB Financial Group is reporting a 99% increase for its financial year ending September 30, 2022. The information was given by Chief Financial Officer and Deputy CEO of NCB Financial Group, Dennis Cohen, while addressing an investor briefing held on Friday, November 11.
The group reported consolidated net profits of $39.9 billion for the year ended September 30, 2022, representing a $19.8 billion or 99% increase over the prior year.
Mr. Cohen, in his report, gave a breakdown of the net profits attributed to shareholders.
Net profits attributable to shareholders was $27.3 billion, which is 13.1 or 92% higher than last year and translates to a 17.6% return on equity.
With all that, Mr. Cohen says the company is pleased with the financial outturn and that they remain vigilant of other developments that present potential headwinds.
We are encouraged by the financial outturn as well as the fact that we have been able to maintain our leading market position in Jamaica and in the region. Notwithstanding the positive performance, we remain vigilant and continue to closely monitor a number of market and other developments that present potential headwinds for our business. These developments include the fragile geopolitical situation with the Russia-Ukraine war and its implications for the global economy, the potential for further central bank rate increases which could impact our capital, along with new insurance accounting rules and the implementation of Basel III among them.
For your market updates, in foreign exchange trading for Monday, November 14, the US dollar sold for an average of $154.43. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $117.02. The pound sterling traded for $181.28, and the euro sold for an average of $159.65. In JSE trading, the JSE index declined by 1,347 points. The junior market index declined by 60 points. The combined market index declined by 1,806 points. And the all Jamaican composite index declined by 1,888 points. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 102 stocks, of which 25 advanced, 62 declined, and 15 traded firm. Stocks advanced for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, Caribbean Producers Jamaica Limited, and Carreras Limited. Stocks declined for Access Financial Services Limited, AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited, and Barita Investments Limited. Trading firm were 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, Verbal Preference, Blue Power Group Limited, and First Rock Real Estate Investments Limited, USD. The overall volume leaders were Trans-Jamaican Highway Limited with over 4 million units, Wicton Wind Farm Limited Ordinary Shares with over 3 million units, and Consolidated Bakeries Jamaica Limited with over 1 million units. In regional stocks, in Trinidad and Tobago, Lico Investment Fund was the only active security posting over 8,000 shares. On the Barbados Stock Exchange, Goddard Enterprises Limited was the volume leader with 25,000 shares. They were followed by Government of Barbados Bond Series B, which traded over 12,000 shares. In regional business, in Trinidad and Tobago, The price of flour may have risen twice this year, but the National Flour Mills has actually suffered a loss for the first 9 months of 2022.
Despite raising flour prices twice this year, National Flour Mills has reported a loss of $1.7 million for the first 9 months of 2022. According to NFM's unaudited financial statement for the 9-month period ended September 30th, Chairman Nigel Romano noted that several factors, including the Russia-Ukraine war and geopolitical tensions across the globe, which impacted global supply chains, impacted the company's operations negatively. Romano says NFM's cost sales increased from $256.7 million to $311.9 million, but while price increases implemented bumped revenues up to $371.2 million from $319.7 million for the same period last year. Operating profits decreased significantly, leading to the loss. Romano says, notwithstanding these challenges, significant efforts were made to increase inventory levels to ensure reliable supply to all our customers.
In market data for oil prices fell as rising COVID-19 cases in China heightened fears of lower fuel consumption. Brent crude futures fell 78 cents to $92.36 a barrel, while West Texas Intermediate crude fell by 92 cents to $84.95 a barrel. And that was the business report on PBCJ. I'm Benita Rodney.
In regional news, in Guyana, despite a flawed contract signed by the previous APNU-AFC administration, the People's Progressive Party civic government at the start of the 2022 year had recommitted to completing the construction of a US $4.3 million embassy in Brazil. But with $17.3 million more, an ambitious timeline to complete the facility by July this year was not met. Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation Hugh Todd told the newsroom that the government was forced to scrap the entire contract because of mounting inconsistencies.
We've arrived at a position where the contractor has agreed to bring it to an end, and we are currently resolving or bringing everything to an end. We will still have to take more monies from the government coffers to actually have it be completed, because it was widely ambitious, the undertaking that the previous government would have embarked on, and we're here to ensure that the people of Ghana get the best value for their money, because they're actually paying for it. So we want to ensure that the money is well spent, and we want to ensure that we can refashion the project to ensure that we can get the best for money being well spent.
In Grenada, speaking at a second annual Education Ministerial Summit, Prime Minister Dickon Mitchell stressed the urgency of incorporating vocational skills as part of the school system of learning. More in this GBN report.
Prime Minister Dickon Mitchell, delivering the keynote address at the second annual Ministerial Summit Friday, notes that the pandemic revealed glaring deficiencies in the education system and, on a positive side, forced a closer look at the approach to learning and the skills and technology needed to create school systems that are resilient and nimble.
Human resources are our most precious asset and a fundamental contributor to the social and economic development of our nations. We now have an opportunity to reimagine how we can equitably prepare our citizens for a changing global society.
Social media users took to the comment section to share their thoughts about this latest development. The following views are that of members of the public and not of the Grenada Broadcasting Network. Carolyn said, hopefully by putting more emphasis on vocational skills, it can help to change the negative stereotypes surrounding schools like NULO. Louise added, Mr. Prime Minister, vocational skills incorporated with placement with employers and businesses is one of the most positive ways to create a culture of work ethics in our young population.
In Belize, the Inter-American Development Bank, IDB, has approved a $200,000 donation to Belize to help families affected by Hurricane Lisa. This type of emergency technical cooperation is aimed at humanitarian aid, which includes food, drinking water, and cleaning supplies, among other emergency items. Tanya Halls, communications officer at the Belize Red Cross, explains the role that the delegates will play in the distribution of the funds.
He is here in a capacity as one of our delegates that would help with the distribution of the IDB funding that we received. We got a significant donation from the IDB, and we were selected by the government of Belize to be the official recipient and channeling organization to deliver those funds. And so we have he's our international delegate that comes to ensure that accountability, transparency in delivery of that process, because it's cash in hand. Okay. So these donations will be given out to, we have proposed 300 families. We benefited from this cash relief. And so certainly, because we are a national society, we do need the international organization delegation to be here for that sum of money, for the simple sake of transparency and accountability.
In international news, at the G20 summit in Indonesia, the United States and its allies are pushing the case that Russia and its war in Ukraine are to blame for the global cost of living crisis. But the effort to hold Moscow responsible for the food security and inflation woes gripping the global economy faces an uphill climb in Bali amid palpable divisions over the war. More from Al Jazeera.
Now, leaders of the G20 nations have begun talks on the global food and energy crisis. Chinese President Xi Jinping has warned against what he called the weaponization of food and energy. A draft statement from leading world economies has called for the extension of the grain deal between Ukraine and Russia. The summit on the Indonesian island of Bali is the first since Russia invaded Ukraine back in February.
No other option. Paradigm of collaboration is badly needed to save the world. We all have responsibility, not only for our people, but also for the people of the world. Being responsible here also means that we must end the war. If the war does not end, it will be difficult for the world to move forward.
Let's speak to Al Jazeera's diplomatic editor, James Bays, who is live for us now in Bali. So as we were saying, James, global food, energy security, both to be the focus at this first G20 session. What more are they discussing?
Yes, those have been the focus in recent hours, energy and food, and clearly those crises both result from, in many ways, from the war in Ukraine. They're actually, we can see the live pictures now, about to start the second session, which is on global health, which they'll be focusing on. But in that first session on food and energy, I think the key speaker was someone who's not actually here, and that's President Zelensky. He was invited to the G20 as a guest. He did not attend, but he did attend and make a speech by video link. We're told by those in the room it was an impassioned and detailed speech. He said it was time to end what he described as Russia's destructive war, but then he went a little bit further. He said once Russian troops had pulled out of his country, there were certain things he wanted. He wanted reparations for all the damage. He wanted a new tribunal.
In sports, former West Indies white ball captain Kieran Pollard has been released by Indian Premier League outfit Mumbai Indians. This as Mumbai has rolled out its retention and released players lists ahead of IPL 2023 mini auction.
The all-rounder was the longest-serving player for MI and represented them in 13 seasons since 2010. He played a huge part in their 5 title wins, scoring 3,412 runs at a strike rate of almost 150. MI have released 5 players in total. Meanwhile, Australian Tim David finds himself on the list of 10 players retained. Among the other players retained by MI, Rohit Sharma, Ishan Kishan, Jofra Archer, Jasprit Bumrah and Tristan Stubbs.
And that's the news on PBCJ. You can follow us on our social media platforms at PBCJamaica. Thanks for watching.